when the light picks up.
The browser should update. That seems likely. Yep.
Hey, there we go.
And
And move it up a little for me.
There we go.
Okay. I got the little.
Advertisement. Right now anyway,
So, Pincushions. Hey! We were here this morning making stationery cards out of painted and scrap papers, junk papers, and recycling them and making bookmarks and cards. Some on the sewing machine and some with just double-sided tape. And then the husband absconded with me. We went out and had some Chinese food. And as we came back, the weather changed into this awful rain, snow, ice mixture stuff. So he's going to go ahead and take home in the lightweight car, and I got the truck, so I can come and play with you some more. So one of the things that just gives me a big kick in life is finding something that's been discarded or it's ruined, you know, and making something beautiful out of it. I think a lot of times we toss things away without really exercising that little part of our brain that says, oh, but it could be this, you know, or oh, you know, it could become this other thing. And part of that I got from my grandparents living on a farm. It was 45 minutes to get to the nearest anything. So you ran out of tartar sauce, you made some with pickle relish and mayonnaise, and you know, we grew and raised most of our food, and there was a real sense of you know, nothing got thrown in the trash. I mean, we had a little burning barrel, so we dealt with all of our own trash right there on the farm. So, you know, if it's a piece of metal, something that stopped functioning, it got taken apart and used in new things, and clothing got recycled into wool quilts and other items. So I kind of kept that all these years. And my master's is in art education, and of course, you know, you never have enough money to buy anything for all those kids for classes. So you get really good at finding who's throwing what away and what can I do with it. So, hey, husband's taking off. Give me a kiss. Mwah.
I love you.
Love you. You be careful.
When you're done, just unplug everything from this thing
Okay.
and throw it in the bag and bring it home. Everything else can stay.
Okay. Sounds good. So this was a one of those Afghans. It was 100% wool, and all of these things we're making today, it's important that you get something that's 100% wool. The reason is that you're going to be cutting into it without sewing or turning or fixing the edges. So it's got to be something that's just been absolutely felted until it's just, you know, a solid piece of fiber. This was a wool Afghan that was actually large enough to cover the top of a twin bed, and now it's maybe 4 feet by maybe 30 inches. It's gotten really small, but you can still see the patterns there. It's really pretty. So when you're making these when you're making these pincushions, I got to tell you, they're addictive. They really are. You'll just be making them all the time, giving them to all your friends. I have 7 or 8 of them around my place. I just love them. They're very nice little impulse items. If you have a quilt store in your area, or you have a little sewing shop, or a little place that does even knitting supplies, you know, it's a nice little boutique thing. They can put it on the counter. You won't have that much money into it, but you'll certainly, you know, be able to spend an afternoon cutting up one item that you bought at a thrift store, or somebody gave it to you, or a church rummage sale or something. I think I paid $1.99 for this, and I washed it 4 times and I dried it 4 times, but it went through with my regular, you know, clothes and other items that I would have washed anyway. So I'm cutting a strip. Let me get a measuring tape so I can tell you exactly how wide this is. I'm not much for measuring. I'm more of a about this much kind of person. So including the points, this is 4 inches. And down at the bottom, it's a little under 3.5 wide. And we're just going to go ahead and cut all the way across. the same amount. You just cannot screw this up. I mean, you know, it's just going to work out all right no matter what, so don't worry about it. So what I'm doing with that then, I just cut all the way across where the points were, and I've got this little strip now. So you're going to fold this over. Wait till you see how easy this is. You're going to fold this over and then just start rolling it up from one end. Now, you'll notice there's a little bit of white hair in here every now and then, so it's either my cat or the previous owner. And my feeling on that, I'm not allergic to cats. My feeling on that is if I see any when I get done, I will remove them. But I'm certainly not going to go crazy about any that are hidden way down inside here. And I'm just rolling it across. You can see how much I've got that just underneath the end of the points. So these Afghans that have this ripple effect, you'll be able to get two of these really pretty ones with the points out of your Afghan. I suppose you could cut that into two sections and you know, just put it around the outside, but this is kind of pretty. And then I'm trimming this. I trimmed off that much. I'm just going to hand pull that around there the rest of the way. It makes it a little nicer finish. I'm going to keep it pinned, make it obey, and not unravel stuff all over the place on me here. I put a couple pins in to hold it. And then you can see it just opens up like a big flower. Isn't that pretty? Now, I've decided that I would like this to angle down a little bit on the last little bit. So I'm actually going to trim back a little triangle. And as I said, you know, you can't really do this wrong. I've made a few hundred of them, but you can't really get it wrong. And then that makes it come down in a bit of an angle down there. I didn't cut the end, just this part that's already folded over. Stick my pinch back in there. Keep it from unrolling on me. And all of this little fuzzy stuff, we will get that all picked off. Now remember how felted this is. You can actually cut these if you wanted. It's not going to unravel and it's not going to go anywhere because you've got it completely felted. So for finishing this off, it's just literally a few stitches. You're not going to see these stitches, so you can just pretty much grab whatever thread you've got up next, or a needle if you've got a needle left over from something else you sewed, because we're just going to be hiding those stitches in there. You can use a nice big needle with a big eye. I'm putting the loop in through the needle eye, and then pulling that down, and then that way I don't need a knot. So, because I have that loop already in there, I'm literally going to pick up a tiny little bit of the pincushion, put my needle through the loop, and no knot. Then it's just back and forth. I'm just going to pick up a little of this tab, this end, and just kind of catch it down in there. It doesn't take much. You know, this is not going to pull trucks. You know, this is not going to have to suspend us in a tree. It's just got a little pincushion. About the worst thing that can ever happen to this is let your dog get a hold of it, because they just go insane and just chew it up and it's junk. So you want to keep it out of their way, because you really don't want your dog getting into something that's got sharp little pins in it. Cats will bat it around and the pins and needles will fall out, and then you get to step on them, but it's more of a risk for dogs. They seem to just really think this is just the bestest toy ever. It smells like their owners, I guess. And they see you playing with it, and maybe it looks like a ball to them. Pull the stitches nice and snug, but you know, as I said, you know, I've got a double thread here. You could easily do it with a single thread. One of those projects where it's like a recipe, you can leave out two things and it's still edible. You just can't go wrong. So I made a little knot, and then I'm just going to go in and have my needle come out somewhere else. And nobody will ever know that that thread is in there. So I've got a thread now that's keeping this here so it can't unravel. But now what I need is to sew through the middle so that if somebody pulls on this or it gets pushed or shoved from the bottom, that it's not going to cause the whole thing to come apart. So for that, I'm going to pick out a long needle. And sometimes you can get these really neat needles. They're called doll making needles. You can find them 5-6 inches long sometimes. There's a really big, thick one, a little too thick. I just find those are kind of helpful for this because you're going to be going across and trying to grab up a fairly substantial amount. It's nice if you can get this and squish it and have it come out the middle there. It doesn't really matter too much. This is not the most hideous color. It's not really mauve, and it's not really... I'm taking a fairly long needleful. I'm going to double it back. It's still long, what my grandmother would call a lazy needle. And again, the loop goes through first. Let it spin out some twists. And that's how long my needle and thread really is. It's not that unmanageable. I kind of like working with a long one. So I'm going to grab just a tiny couple of threads. Attach by going through there. No knot. So now comes the part where more or less what I want to do is get all the way across, come out in the middle, all the way across, come out on the end. And then I'm going to come around and I'm trying to kind of turn this into pie slices with the needle and thread so that there's a needle and thread going across this way, this way, this way, and then that way I know nothing's ever going to be moving around on me. So just way down deep. And then again. And the only purpose of this is so that it can't get pushed and shoved through. It's just a construction. That time I made it all the way through the half. You can squish it a little bit as you go. Okay, it's already got a thread running all the way through there. We can cut across onto the corner here, like cutting across the vacant lot. Alright, and there I am on the other side. So I've got this one. Now I'm going to have this one. And remember, you don't have to get stuck with whatever color somebody's old grandmother made these in. You can dye this. You know, I like the acid dyes. And because this has some color variations, if you don't use quite as much dye, then you'll still have variations of whatever color you chose. So it'd be different shades of blue, and that red might turn into lavender or purple. That's a beautiful thing about dyeing. You just really never actually know exactly what you're going to get on a new material. Cut across again. Head it to the middle. Right on across. There we go. So I've got my my 3 passes across, my 6 little slices of pie. I pick up just a tiny bit, knot off my thread. It's not crucial, whatever method you use, it's going to be just fine. There. Now it's sewn up on the end. It's sewn through here. You can't push it through like that anymore. So now I really like these outside points. I really do. And I like that way that little burst of color comes through there. So I'm going to go around and catch a needle on each of these points and sew them so they stay that way, because that just looks like it would be the nice